Ready, the 2020 election will be here before we know it. Thom Tillis, the one Republican senator who many say is vulnerable next go around. Some Democrats have already said they're running against him. Mecklenburg County Commissioner Trevor Fuller, State Senator Erica Smith, who represents Northampton County, and Raleigh Attorney Ava Lee. However, Democrats are looking for candidates with more name recognition and proven fundraising appeal in some circles. Jim Morrill of the Observer writes that at the top of that Democratic list, according to key Democrats, Attorney General Josh Stein, former Charlotte Mayor and U.S. Transportation Secretary Anthony Foxx, and State Senator Jeff Jackson. All right, I'll ask the Republican first. How vulnerable do you think Thom Tillis is?
I think any statewide office in North Carolina is vulnerable, regardless of whether you're a Republican, Democrat, governor, lieutenant governor, Senate. We truly live in a purple state when you look at the state as a whole. And I've known Senator Tillis for a long time. I spent time with him this week. I think that he, and his campaign consultant Paul Shoemaker was quoted in that moral argument. Said, look, anyone who thinks this isn't in play is fooling themselves. And so I think Tillis has a compelling story to tell the voters. I think he's done an excellent job, but he could have done a perfect job and it would be competitive. Sure. I mean, that's just the nature of it. It'll be interesting to see that you look at Foxx and Stein and Jeff Jackson, who gets attached to every open position, it seems like nowadays, and some of these folks of what they do, because you go to 2022, and does that serve their purpose a little bit better? It's an open year. Burr says he's not running again. Yeah. It'll be interesting to see whether they think 20 or 22 is a better fit for a top-tier Democrat candidate.
Who gets you excited, Pat?
I'm waiting.
Okay.
I'm waiting for someone to get me excited. I do think Thom Tillis is his North Meck area because of the toll road and his involvement with it when he was Speaker of the House. I think that he has some deficits in that area. But again, it's a presidential year, so more people come out. And even though we have an election going on for the city of Charlotte, the 2020 people we file in December. Yeah. So it's going to start, and the primary will be in March. So, it's when a presidential year comes in, a lot more people get involved. Sure. So I'm sure there'll be more candidates for that race.
Any names excite you yet?
So here's the thing. Tip O'Neill said a long time ago, all politics are local. So looking at the local candidates, I was scratching my head when I read Trevor Fuller's comments about the cheeseburger and the comments about paying property taxes is our price of citizenship. No. Our price of citizenship, especially if you're African American, is if you have a daughter, seeing her respected and valued and grown up to her matrician, if you have a son, having him not to be shot by a law enforcement officer, and if you have a home, being able to have that piece of the American dream and home ownership. So I'm wanting to see less senatorial sound bites from Trevor and other candidates that are aspiring, and more, how are you going to improve my quality of life? Tell me what you've done. How are you going to expand that senatorially? Because this is very important.
I think that could apply to Senate races or any sort of race coming up in 2020. I want to get this in too. This week, CMS began random security screenings at local high schools. CMS says the type of screening they do at each school is going to vary. They're saying they have 3 different methods. They're either going to screen an entire class, an entire building, or entire school, but never screen individual students at random. These screenings, all part of an immediate action plan taken by the district to keep guns out of schools. New screenings come after multiple guns have been found at CMS schools and a shooting at Butler High School late last year, which left 1 student dead.
One thing I think, obviously I'm a CMS employee, proudly so. I think one thing, CMS I think got unfairly criticized for the number of guns we found previous to this. The reason we found guns is we were out looking for them. Yeah. I mean, there's other school districts across the state and across this country that turn a blind eye intentionally.
They don't even know how many guns.
They don't even know. So we got criticized for trying to resolve the problem. This is obviously looking at the terrible situation we had down at Butler High School and trying to address, ultimately our job at CMS is to make sure every child is safe and secure. And so I think this is a very positive step. I appreciate Superintendent Wilcox and the board and how they've tried to bring some real clarity and transparency to how we're going to pick some of these schools, how we're going to do this, so everyone can see the process is trying to be as open and honest as possible.
One other topic I want to get in before the break. Volunteers spread out across Charlotte to get a good count of how many How many people are actually living on the streets? It's all part of the homeless point-in-time count. The initiative gets an exact number of homeless people living in Mecklenburg County. Last year's count found more than 1,600 people were homeless in the county. Pat, I know you were involved in this count.
Yes, I was. I was uptown on Thursday, around a little after 4 o'clock in the morning, and then went out. And we go out in teams, and you can either work on the streets or in the camps. The camps are a little harder to work, sure. And so I went out in the camps. I did that last year, and it does kind of take your breath away when this year I would talk to a man who was 62, a veteran, and had diabetes, and he was living in a tent with his wife. There were some people who did not want to participate with us, but and so we are very respectful because we know that we're kind of going into their home, sure, when we come near them, and it's early in the morning. But this information is very informative. It helps us. It certainly helps me be a better county commissioner because you can look at the data, but if you don't know the people behind the data, it's a whole lot different. So it is valuable, and I appreciate all the volunteers who came out. The county did a great job in organizing it, and I know we'll have a good count.
And kudos to you because of all the local leaders. You are one of the loudest and most staunch advocates of the homeless.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
It's important. All right, more Flashpoint after this.